All right, y'all. Welcome back to Front Porch Chronicles. And today, fellas, look, we got a fella Alabamian, a jiu-jitsu rock star, high school wrestling. Yes, I said wrestling. My Alabama roots are gonna come out today. Part owner of PGF's Alabama Twisters. Look, I'm the hardest working and best dressed man in jiu-jitsu,
Mm.
Mr. FleaRoy Brown.
The Alabama aphrodisiac himself, brother. How you doing today?
Yes, sir, bruh. I've been on FleaRoy for a while, bro. We've been like kind of trying to get this locked in for a while. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I was so stoked. I've been walking around the office today. I'm like, I'm having my boy on here today, and I'm glad we worked you in your schedule. What's the past 48 hours been like?
All right, so from Vegas to Atlanta, got stuck in the airplane because the jet bridge broke. So the
Oh.
city of Atlanta had to come fix the jet bridge, which I mean, I think we all know about Atlanta, so you know how quick that was, right? They finally get done holding old FleaRoy Brown hostage on that plane. I walk out, my phone's dead. So I got to walk out to the parking lot and just look for the old Tacoma, right? The wife came and picked me up in Atlanta. I drove the old Taco back to Birmingham just so that I could make the open mat at 10, right? Went to the open mat. Went after that, taught some wrestling, and then I had to wake up the next day at 2:30 in the morning so that I can make it to the Cat Five duels tournament in Georgia, in Perry, Georgia. Shout out to Bobby Bopham. Oh, Stephen Aiken owns 10th Planet Perry out there. But yeah, I had to, wake up a little bit early so that I could drive out and coach that wrestling tournament, and then drove back home just for this, brother. You know what I'm
Ooh,
saying?
bro. Look, for the people that don't know, tell them who FleaRoy Brown is.
Well, I don't think there's a soul on this planet that don't know. At least there ain't no ladies that don't know.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
You know what I'm saying? There might be some men out there that don't know, but the ladies know because they see me in their dreams every night. You know what I'm saying? But Leroy Brown is the Alabama aphrodisiac, the calf slice kid, the Sultan of the South, the Baron of Bama, all the things that you've heard about him, he is, except
Woo!
the bad things. You know what I'm saying? But man, dude, I'm just a kid from well, I guess I'm not a kid anymore. I'm almost 30, but I'm just a man from New Hope, Alabama, that wanted to leave the small town and not get trapped up in all that stuff, and so I came out here to Birmingham pursuing MMA. Actually, I started wrestling when I was 9. Me and my dad were very like the epitome of poverty. No, I didn't have central heating or air until my wife moved me to Birmingham. So came up my whole life wrestling. Wrestling was the only consistent thing that I ever had. And then dropped out of high school because I didn't have good enough grades, because I had a really inconsistent living, homework was not a thing for your boy. How you gonna do homework? You ain't got no home. You know what I'm saying? So the grades slipped. I actually failed like 3 years in a row, but I was so halfway decent at wrestling that they just let it go. And then finally they were like, look, dude, you can't wrestle anymore. And I was like, well, that's the only reason I come here, dude. So deuced out of high school, didn't have wrestling anymore, ballooned up to like 320 pounds. I was a drug addict and an alcoholic and a real estate agent. And, you know, and I just got sick of it. And I actually got into a fight with this guy and I beat the shit out of him. But he got up and walked away, and my big fat 320-pound ass was crawling on my hands and knees, puking. Right? So I was like, man, dude, this shit can't ever happen again. How you gonna win a fight and it still bruise your ego? You know what I'm saying? So
It's hard out
I
here for
called
a
up.
pimp. It's hard out here for
Exactly, dog. Exactly. I felt like I broke my pimp hand, dog. The pimp hand's supposed to stay strong, dude. How you gonna have a broke pimp hand? You know? So I called up the closest gym to me because at the time I knew about wrestling and I'd watched, the UFC and stuff like that, but I didn't really know the ins and outs of MMA. So I just called the closest gym to the house that I was living in and pretty much gave him the spiel. I was like, "Look, dude, I don't have a dime to give you, but I've got all the time in the world." And so it ended up being a Tiger Rock martial arts run by Luke Blackburn in Huntsville, Alabama, in Bailey Cove, and it was 5 minutes away from my house, so I could walk, right? And so this guy let me come clean up the gym and before and after class so that I could take class for free. And I ended up getting my black belt from him in Taekwondo, right? Just so we're clear, Taekwondo. And he asked me to start teaching for him. So I started teaching and that's when I got away from real estate because I was doing real estate and I was just absolutely miserable and I was fat and I had bad habits and I felt like, even though I was a halfway decent salesperson, I felt like I wasn't completely honest all the time. And, it really started eating away at me. But as soon as I got to give back to the kids, I was like, oh, okay. This is what I'm supposed to do. Right. So I quit doing real estate and took a huge pay cut to work for 7.95 an hour to teach 4 classes a day at Tiger Rock, and I loved it. I had never been so happy in my adult life, and so I had a buddy of mine. We were watching the UFC, and this is after I was a black belt, right? And we were just talking about this, that, and the other, and he was like, "Why don't you do that?" I was like, "Oh, dude, I couldn't do that. I'm da 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 da." And he was like, "No, man, you totally could." And so I actually moved out to Birmingham, me and my wife, on a whim, hoping that I could make it to the UFC and be a successful MMA fighter. Um, and then I made it to the pro comp team at the first gym that I started at, a gym that shall not be named, right? And
it's always the
this
gym that should not be named.
Exactly. And listen, they know who they are and I don't harbor no hate in my heart for them, right? If they hadn't have done what they did, I wouldn't be where I am. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for the struggle, I wouldn't be Flea. You know what I'm saying? So
Woo!
I am completely thankful for, everything that has happened. But having said all that, I spent maybe a year on the comp team and I was like, you know what, dog? This whole getting punched in the face shit ain't for me, dog. I am way too pretty to be getting beat the fuck up all the time. But I was halfway decent at jujitsu, right? And I loved it. So instead of doing MMA, I just committed to doing jujitsu fucking twice a day, every day, except Sundays. You already know, except Sundays, right?
Yes, sir. Bible Belt.
So I mean, and then I went to the gym that shan't be named for a minute, and I kind of started stagnating in my progress, right? And I'd been wrestling since I was 9, so I'm not unfamiliar with grappling. I'm just unfamiliar with jujitsu, right? And so I kind of felt myself starting to stagnate, and I got to talking to a buddy of mine named Jonathan Roberts, the Elbow Genie, right? One of the PGF's OGs, literally has a point system named after him, right? And he kind of took me under his wing and really took care of me. And so I told him, I was like, man, I feel like I'm stagnating. What do I do? And he was like, look, you need to cross train. And so he took me around to a couple of gyms in town, literally took me to, held my hand, took me around, introduced me to different gym owners and stuff like that. And I'm not going to name any of the other gyms either, but like because Jonathan Roberts went and showed me around, like I've never had to pay a mat fee in my life. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm like, hey man, Jonathan Roberts sent me. And I guess, because he's the elbow gene boy, he just carries that weight. He's got that weight to throw
Next
around.
level.
Exactly. So one of the gyms that I started training at was Cobra over here in Chelsea, and at the time they were
Yeah.
brand new. Cole Dobbins and his wife Anna Dobbins had just opened it, and I was at one of their lunch classes, and I was a white, like a, whatever stripe white belt at the time. And I was going with this older gentleman who I believe was a purple belt, and he hits me with the old, "Hey man, I'm an old man, so." Let's just flow roll. Let's just get a little sweat going. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant, right? At the time,
Prostate exam.
yeah, exactly. You're damn right. Exactly, right? So, I was being gentle with him and he torched the shit out of me, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, not happening again, right? So, and back in my wrestling days, I did what we used to call the dirty 30, which they've messed with the point system in wrestling, so the dirty 30 doesn't exist anymore. But what the dirty 30 was is that you would take them down and you would do what's called
Let them
cutting
get
them.
up.
Yep. So you would take them down, put your hands on them, push them, cut them, let them get up, let them get away, let them get their 1 point, then you take them down again, right? And so eventually you have 30 points, they have 15, you win by tech fall. And so that's what I started doing to this older purple belt gentleman, right? Um, Man, I must have teched him 5 or 6 times in a 7 minute round, right? Like, and I was just and I wasn't being nice about it either, right? Because again, white
Jangalang,
belt,
jangalang.
didn't understand the etiquette. You know what I'm
Look
saying?
at
All I
me.
knew was
You gonna learn today.
exactly right. All I knew was that this guy lied to me, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's not about to we about to pay the price for that, right? And Anna Dobbins, the co-owner of Cobra Chelsea, walked up to me afterwards, and after she watched that round, and she goes, "You ever thought about teaching wrestling?" And I was like, "Man, I used to teach taekwondo. I would love to teach wrestling. So I started teaching wrestling up at Cobra, um, and left the other gym. We all know how that goes. And then shortly after I got started at Cobra, I got a phone call, like a literal random phone call from Chelsea Middle School, and asking me if I was interested in coaching the middle school wrestling team. And you know, FleaRoy Brown has done some things in his life. You know what I'm saying, right?
We all
Lived
have.
exactly, right? So at first I didn't really feel like I was worthy, and so I prayed about it, and this, that, and the other, and I talked to my wife about it, and I think I decided that it's not a whether you're worthy or not thing. It's a shepherding thing. Like God was calling me to kind of shepherd the youth like I used to, right? Because right now I was teaching adults at Cobra, and don't get me wrong, I love that, right? But maybe that's not what my real purpose is, and God was giving me another chance to find out what my real purpose is. So I accepted the job at Chelsea, and we went undefeated in duels for 2 years in a row. And then we had a couple. What is the equivalent of a middle school state champion? We had two. And then I got a call from the high school coach asking me, "Hey man, you mind coming up here and just helping out for a couple weeks at the high school?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, sure." I came up there, helped out for a couple weeks, and then he was like, "Hey man, you mind coming and helping coach some of the tournaments?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I would love to." And I kind of turned into the guy that was just in the chair the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then, I went out and coached sectionals with them, right? And we ended up having a couple people qualify for state. And then he asked me to go coach at state, and I gave Chelsea I didn't give it, right? The Lord gave Chelsea their second ever state champion, right? So we had a 215-pound 6A state champion and I believe, 160-pound. I don't know the female weight classes. I'm sorry. Um, Female get third place, right? And prior to that, Chelsea had only ever had one state champion ever in their history. And now, since I've been working up there, not to toot my own horn or anything, but throughout the couple years that I've been working out there, throughout the every program that they have, we've got five state champions. So we are changing, or at least trying to change, the dynamics and the culture in wrestling over here in Chelsea. So
The facts are the facts, brother. The facts are the
exactly,
facts.
exactly. That's as short as I
The
can make the
truth shall
story, brother.
set you free. Woo.
Exactly, brother. You just, hey, trust in the Lord and he shall provide, dude. He
Yes,
always
sir.
does and he always has.
Always. You have a fire lit inside you. What do you think that is? What do you think is the drive?
My driving force, dude, it's the youth, man. It's the kids. I was thinking about this the other day. A lot of coaches tell their kids that they are proud of them, and that's cool, and that's what you're supposed to do as a coach. But I think what a lot of coaches forget is that you have to give your kids a reason to be proud of you too, right? It makes it a whole lot easier to demand respect in the room when you don't have to demand it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's part of the reason, it seems arrogant and I tell jokes and stuff when I do it, but the reason I post my workouts and how often I work out and what my schedule looks like and this, that, and the other, it's not like bragging. It's not like so that you can see it. It's so that my kids can see it. You know what I'm saying? And now that I'm reaching a relative level of success, it's like you got to show them what success looks like. You can't just talk to them about it, right? Because no offense to a lot of these high school, and middle school wrestling coaches, but you're a teacher, dog. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool, and we need you, brother. But you especially need to be out there doing all the extra stuff, right? So, part of the fire is my kids, man, and a lot of the reason that I'm so excited about getting involved in the PGF is my kids because. For a long time in wrestling, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Literally, only did it for the love of the game, right?
And
Like when
then
I
you go to
came up.
MMA.
Yeah, or you go get beat up, right? Yeah, exactly, right? And, so like for me growing up, it was like, man, you better make it to college wrestling. And if you don't make it to college wrestling, then your dreams are over. And then once you get to college, man, you better make it to the Olympic team because if you don't make it to the Olympic team, your dreams are over, right? And, so part of my fire with, being involved with the Twisters and the PGF is that if we can make this thing as successful as I think it's going to be, and as, it's already kind of proven to be, that light at the end of the tunnel is there, right? It's already there. We had a kid on our team named Matt Mash this year. I think he's 20 years old, and he wrestled in high school and didn't make it to college. And now look at him. He's a professional grappler in the PGF, right? So, that's part of it. And I think the other part, well, I know the other part is that, um, it's the Lord, man. It's God. I I hate preaching to people, right? Because I'm not always correct, and a lot of the times I feel
None
like
of us.
exactly, right? So I think what's a lot more effective than preaching to people is living the way that God asks you to live, right? And so that's one of the ways that I can keep myself disciplined is by always having something to do, right? People always having to rely on me, right? Because I have found that if I rely on myself, I lose. You know what I'm saying? But if my wife and my kids and Clint and Cole and the PGF and Matt Elkins and this and that and the other, if they all rely on FleaRoy Brown's not gonna let them down. You know what I'm saying? I'll let myself down. I don't mind letting myself down. You know what I'm saying? If ain't nobody there to watch the show, then who gives a shit about the show? You know what I'm saying? People ask me, oh, why don't you do bracketed tournaments? Because nobody gives a shit about bracketed tournaments. Nobody's there to watch FleaRoy Brown compete, right? I like doing super fights because I get to put on a show. I get to go strut my stuff, right? So, I try to live that same way, like in Christ. You know what I'm saying? I want to be a light. I want to be a beacon for other people. And so, yeah,
We're
man, I think
very much cut from the same cloth. I live my life the
exactly,
same way. I talked to
exactly.
somebody earlier today and we were talking about that. I went through so much pain, so much chaos, and people are like, why are you get up every day when every statistic says I should be a piece of shit in prison, like dead, all of these things.
Amen.
And it's two things: my kids, because I want to give them all of the things that I didn't have as a kid. And I do this podcast and I do all of this stuff to be a light and a voice for the ones that feel like that they don't. And so what you're doing, what you're saying, all of this thing, you already had an immense amount of respect from me, but it quadrupled if that's even possible.
Man, I appreciate that, and let me share this with you too, right? Because you've lived a relatively rough life too. If and for everybody out there listening, make your struggle have purpose, right? Don't just suffer for nothing. You know what I'm saying? If you suffer and suffer and suffer, and that's what the vast majority of my life has been. Don't get it twisted, right? FleaRoy Brown is built to bear down, dog. I'm built to carry burdens, right? So I don't mind the suffering. Suffering brings you closer to Christ if you allow it. But another thing that suffering does for you is that it gives you experience in suffering so that you can help others through theirs, right? And so, like you kind of said, man, that's why I don't mind getting up every day and doing what I do. I love it, right? I went through a very intense staph infection where I actually got. I don't know if y'all can see the scarring on my chest there, but it's
Yeah.
all over my chest, all over my shoulders and back. I look like a burn victim. And it was after I had found the Lord. It was very shortly after I'd found the Lord, and I was like literally bedridden for like a year. Still didn't miss a single wrestling practice. Taught all my kids. Still didn't miss a single jujitsu practice. Was there taking notes. So there's no excuses. But yeah, my wife literally had to do everything for me, from putting my clothes on me to helping me in and out of the bath to washing and conditioning and curling my, or putting my detangler in, and this, that, and the other. And the whole time I was asking myself, man, why, dude? Why? As soon as I really give my life to you, why would you do this to me, right? And I feel very blessed because a lot of people ask those questions and they either don't get the answer, right? Or they don't receive the answer. They probably get it, but they don't receive it, or they don't get it until a long time afterwards, right? But literally the week I got cleared of my staph infection, I got a call from one of my wrestlers' dads, and he was like, "Hey man, I just got out of the hospital. Such and such has cancer." And it was a kid that I'd worked with, and I was, I'm passionate about all my kids, but as everybody knows, you grow a little bit more, closely to some of them. And I'd grown very close to this kid, and it became very apparent as to why I had to suffer for the past year, right? Because had I not suffered through almost dying, right, and being bedridden and this, that, and the other, then what good would I be as a coach or a mentor to this kid who is going through that, right? So I think you got to give your struggle purpose. You know what I'm saying? And you give your
1,000,
struggle purpose
1,000%.
you give your struggle purpose by doing like what you do, right? And by doing what I do, and being willing to help everybody else that's struggling, right? So
That's the biggest thing. Man, that's whew, powerful. People call you charismatic. You got a whole vibe and an energy about you. Were you always that way, or did you grow into that?
man, I've kind of always been this way, dude. I think it's genetics, right? My mom was a prostitute, which you can't be a non-charismatic prostitute. You know what I'm saying? Right? They
You
don't
gonna be
make very much
broke.
money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Exactly. And then my dad is an artist, but man, he's the thing that he's most like the art that he's the most talented at is the art of talking to people, right? So and he's to this day my best friend, right? So I grew up spending and we were homeless and stuff together, right? So I grew up spending a tremendous amount of time with my dad, and just cutting up with him or watching him cut up with people. Like there were times where we would go to the mall and he would literally pull the Adam Sandler Big Daddy, where he would send me up to a table to go tell, and he would come up and he would get their phone numbers successfully every time. I never seen a woman turn my dad down. And no offense, Dad, my dad's not half as good looking as I am, and I've been turned down tons of times, right? And dude, we were riding an escalator at the mall one time, and he starts laying the smack down real thick on the lady in front of us. By the time we got to the second floor, he already had her phone number. You know,
Jangling,
so
jangling.
exactly, right. So I think I was just kind of born with it, and then struggle gives you character, man. There's even if you end up on the wrong side of struggle, you probably still a character. You know what I'm saying? So again,
Facts. People say the same things. People say the same thing about me. I'm like, when you've been through what I've been through, you don't have any other way to look at life. Well, you could look at life from a negative standpoint, but I look at it as a way to laugh. Because
yeah, my life been
when
so shitty. I can't stand any more negativity. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dog, no, we just gonna laugh about this one. You know what I'm saying?
we're gonna take one for the team. We're gonna
We
take
gonna
one
take
for
it
the
on the
team.
chin, brother.
So, losses teach more than wins. I know you're a coach. What's the toughest L that you've ever taken that shaped you?
Man, I don't really take L's, dude, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess I would say being homeless, but again, like I said, dude, if it wasn't for the struggle, I wouldn't be Fleet. So I've gotten my ass whooped a bunch of times. I've been in some pretty rough situations here and there, but I don't consider any of them L's because it all added up
It
to me being
shapes it shaped
exactly,
who you are. People ask me that all the time, and I'm like, bro, I don't really think I took an L because everything that I've been through shaped who I am and allows me to be a voice for God to other people and to
exactly.
help them to the light. So it's kind of like, a friend of mine once said, I told him, I said, I feel like at times I'm a martyr for God and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, dude, at all times. At all times, brother. Here's my thing. Ain't no such thing as an L. It's only God's will being done, you know? And I have to explain that. I mean, I don't even really have to, explain that to my wrestlers, but because we win so often, but when they do lose, right? If they're a Christian, right? That's what we talk about. It's like, hey, dude, when we prayed before the match, did we pray to win? No. We prayed that God's will was done, right? And God's will was done. You've got nothing to be, there's no L here, brother. You've got nothing to be upset for. And like you said, a loss, in my opinion, a high quality loss is better than any win, you know, because
Character,
exactly, character, experience, we can take notes on those, right? So
life
yeah, man,
lessons.
I don't, I mean, Travis Thomas beat the shit out of me for like 5 minutes one time in MMA. I mean, beat my ass. We'll get to that later. I mean, whoop my ass like I owed him money, dog. And I was still fat, and I was smoking cigarettes. I still smoke cigarettes, but I was fat, right? It was about halfway through we had an hour and a half of sparring. It was about halfway through that. I sucked, so they had me over sparring with the 120-pound men and the women, right? Travis Thomas was like the number one ranked welterweight in the Southeast at the
Beast.
time,
Yeah.
and he goes, "FleaRoy Brown, me and you," and he's standing over there in the heavyweight corner, and I'm like, fuck me, dog, what? You know what I'm saying? And so I mean, he whooped my ass one time, dude. But again, I I wouldn't be me if it wasn't for the struggle, dog. So I don't mind taking an ass whooping. I don't
I,
mind
I,
taking bulls. You know what I'm
I've been
saying?
taking ass whoopings my whole life and I'm okay with them. Now, I dish a whole, look at me. I dish a whole lot of them, a whole lot of them. And I tell people out here it's funny because people hear this southern accent and they get fooled. I say, look, I'm the most friendly southern nice guy you'll ever meet. But 0 to Chris Brown as quick as I need to go.
Well,
And I'm from Montgomery. I tell people all the time, like they'll hear me and they're like, "Oh, where are you? What part of Alabama?" I'm like, "I'm from Montgomery." I always preface. Now, this is my disclaimer. I always give them this. I wouldn't suggest you ever go. And they're like,
exactly.
"But I heard." I heard Alabama is really, you'll get murdered. That's why I tell them,
Yeah,
you'll get
yeah.
in the city of Montgomery, you are highly likely to get robbed and shot at, or
And
both.
that's why I let them know, dude. Listen, FleaRoy Brown doesn't pray for war, but if that's what it comes down to, that's what FleaRoy Brown is built for. You know what I'm
Look,
saying?
grenade.
Exactly. Toss it on them.
You know, if you, with the, in regards to your coaching, if you had 60 seconds to tell an athlete what to do to separate themselves from the pack, what would you say?
Attitude. I mean, listen, you hear that people preach about it, this, that, and the other. It's man, your attitude will get you a lot of places, and it will keep you out of a lot of places. And I'm speaking from experience, right? Throughout my 20 years of being in the wrestling game, I have seen good attitudes get bad wrestlers into good places, and I've seen bad attitudes get good wrestlers into bad places, right? Like look at Ferrari. You know, AJ Ferrari, he was, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not going to name all the names of the D1 schools that he was wrestling at, but now he wrestles at like a D3 school just because he couldn't get out of his own way because of his bad attitude. Right. So, man, you gotta keep your composure, win, lose, or draw. You gotta act like you've been there before. You know what I'm saying? Like this ain't nothing new to you, brother. You gotta play the game, dude. Play the game and be willing to learn. And you gotta know that, one, like we said earlier, there's no such thing as losses, right? It's just the big man's will being done. And a lot of the times you need that loss, right? Even if you're so used to winning, you've put so much into it, this, that, and the other, that's probably when you need to lose the most. You know,
the most.
so adjust your attitude to being okay with losing. I'm not saying stop being competitive. I'm not saying lose the fire or lose the zeal, right? But be willing to lose, man. It's going to make you a lot better. It's going to make you a lot better.
Character.
I had a kid who had wrestled since he was like 4, right, in the same program. And I got him in 7th grade, and he was a good wrestler. Like, he was good. And he was probably the best wrestler at his weight class, for the kids that he'd wrestled. And he had a good season, but he didn't have the season that he could have because as soon as something didn't go right, he would lose it. He would absolutely lose it. And he would lose the match because he lost it up here, right? And then once he lost the match, he lost his composure, would freak out, this, that, and the other,
Spiral.
and he would spiral, right? And so I kind of ixnayed working on his wrestling, and I worked on his attitude for a year straight. That was it. And so he went from consistently coming in third or second, to being a middle school state champion. And man, the only thing I adjusted was his attitude. I didn't teach him anything new. I didn't give him any new way of any special this, that, or the other. There was no special fairy dust that we flicked on him or nothing. It was his attitude that changed, right? And it changed his whole game. And like I said, man, it's number one thing that like collegiate recruiters look at is attitude. They'll look at your
100.
record. They don't get me wrong. They'll take a peek at your record, but if they don't like your attitude, they do not care what your record looks like. And if
At
they love
all.
your attitude, they do not care what your record looks like. I had to give that speech to a wrestler who they had gotten second in the state the year before. They got third in the state the year after, right? And they were like, "Well, how do I explain that to college recruiters?" I was like, "Dog, you go back and you win state the year after this, right? They're not going to care that you went back. It's about how you come up afterwards, you know?"
That's all they care about.
Exactly, right? So, young athletes, change your attitudes because I see it a whole lot more these days. Dude, y'all got terrible, terrible attitudes, terrible, terrible etiquette, and your talent is the only thing that's taking you anywhere. And that goes away, brother.
And
That goes
can't
away.
parents co-signing is the,
Oh, parents love it.
and I'm like, bro, my kids, like, I can't score a goal, act like you've been there. I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't be stoked. I'm not saying after the game don't sell, but all that extra stuff and that attitude and
I listen, I've disqualified my own kids from tournaments for that. You get up,
yeah,
you throw a fit, you cry, you this, that, or the other. You're not wrestling again. Not for
yeah,
me. Not
no,
today. You know what I'm
Let
saying?
me so PGF, Brandon McNinja, my brother by another mother. I love that dude, by the way. I'm a big time fan of him. With the Alabama Twisters, what is, your part owner, what is the vision for the Alabama Twisters?
Dude, I mean, the vision is to put the rest of the world on watch, dude. Because Alabama's had some of the best grapplers in the world for a long time. Tex Johnson, Matt Elkins, Jonathan Roberts, Travis Thomas, FleaRoy Brown. You know what I'm saying? Some of the goats when you're talking about grappling. So we've been ready for it, right? And this was just kind of our chance to get in there and to get to show the world what we're about. So, that's one thing is kind of, showing the world that we've been ready to growing the community in Alabama, right? And then, three, like I kind of mentioned earlier, giving a light at the end of the tunnel for these kids where, man, it's all they got. So I mean, it's real easy to sum up. It's real simple. There is no extra this, that, or the other. We're doing it for the love of the game. One, two, because we've been ready. And then three, for the kids, man, for the youth.
I agree.
Here's the
The state of Alabama, people sleep, but the state of Alabama has some of and this ain't because I'm from the great state of Alabama, we have some of the most legendary, greatest athletes, not just
of all
grapplers,
time.
but of all time.
We produce, brother. We produce. You know what I'm saying? And we are heavily slept on. I agree with you.
Yeah, so I'm
Um,
glad you guys are actually putting on for the state, and I couldn't have
oh, well,
asked for a better group of guys.
oh, dude, me neither, or a better looking group of guys, right? But to your point that you said earlier, it's kind of hard to get people, of Alabama behind grappling. It is when you're just selling the idea of grappling, but when you're selling Alabama pride with it too, because this is the Alabama Twisters. This isn't just grappling, right?
100%.
You know what I'm saying? This is for the people of Alabama, not just for the grapplers, right? Because you're from Alabama, so you know this. But I mean, listen, for the people that aren't from Alabama, just based on the amount of times that me and Clinton have said Alabama, you can tell there's just some weird type of pride that you're born with when you're born in Alabama. Right? It's just, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. It's some sort of zeal. It's some sort of fire that you're just born with when you're born here. So like you could get Alabamians behind anything as long as you toss an Alabama
Percent.
brand on it.
I'm definitely trying to get me one of them Alabama Twister shirts, whatever, so I can represent out here.
Listen, follow us, follow the Alabama Twisters on Instagram, click the link merch in our bio and buy away. We've got
Yes.
shirts and rash guards for sale.
I'm trying to get all of the above. Everybody, you heard the man. Go on there. Follow the Alabama Twisters. I know you got a tight schedule. Let's
We
wrap
got plenty
up.
of time. You're good.
All right. When your kids or athletes talk about you years from now, what is it that you hope they say?
Yeah, this is the one that I was talking about earlier. Man, it's not really about what they say. I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say. I know I've got a lot to say about my coaches. I'm sure I've given them a lot to say, but I just hope they know that I care. That's the biggest deal for me, right? Is kind of being the man for these kids that I needed when I was their age, and I just hope that they grow up and they know that they had that. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest deal for me. That's why I do everything that I do. That's why I wake up every day and go lift weights and get my training in and go talk to my kids and do all this PGF stuff is just so that these kids have a positive, male role model to look up to, you know, And not just that, but somebody who's, got some life experience that they can legitimately reach out and talk to, man. So, I just hope when my kids are adults, I hope that they just know that I was there.
I can see it through social media. Not even I ain't even gotta lay eyes on it, but I know that they know because you exude. And this is hard because you grew up like me. It's hard to take compliments. We say that we're okay with it, but not. But you exude this positive energy and this positive vibe about you. Uh, and I know it's God's plan, but it's also you. And I want you to give yourself credit. Why? By that I mean God gives us things, right? And a lot of people try to hold open doors that were meant to be closed. And God can put his foot on your throat and you can still turn the other cheek and run from him. But you continue to fight the good fight. You get up and you do, we all have made mistakes, but you get up and you do and be better each day. So for me, out of respect, I just want you to know though that it comes out in you and I'm appreciative of it.
Man, I appreciate that. And it makes me think, we had a freestyle and Greco state tournament, and my dad, who, like I said, he's my biggest fan, dude. He hasn't missed a wrestling tournament my entire life, right? And he rarely misses ones that I'm coaching,
Yeah.
So he comes out and he watches this state tournament, and it was on Father's Day. And this kid of mine, he won, and he immediately walked up to my dad and gave my dad the gold, his state championship gold medal, right? And so, man, dude, I'm just thankful, dude. I wouldn't have things any other way. You know what I'm saying? If I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't have a single thing changed. Again,
You are powerful in ways that you don't see, but you're a light to a lot of people. I can't tell you how many days I opened up my phone and I'll see something that you post or whatever that takes my day and completely shifts that around. So keep being that light that you are and know that you're loved and appreciated by a lot of.
man, I appreciate that, dude. Like you said, it's hard to believe, right? But I do appreciate hearing it.
What's your personal definition of toughness?
Man, I think we've defined it in this conversation. I just being willing to get up every day regardless of the situation. You know, you can't just lay down and die. You got to cowboy up, dude. I mean, you can't just lay there and bleed. Half the time I don't even really consider myself very tough. And I've pulled my own teeth, and I've cracked my own fingers back into place, and this, that, and the other, and but and then I kind of remember, man, that's not really, like, physical toughness is cool, but a chimp could do that, man. The real tough thing is getting up every day, knowing your purpose and serving your purpose regardless of the circumstance, right? Or regardless of influence, or regardless of other people's opinions. Because people look at me like I'm crazy. Like, people that know me in real life, that get to see the everyday. Because a lot of people are like, man, it's just a character for Instagram, and it's like, no, dog, dude, we're out here doing it. So a lot of the people that see me in my life every day are like, dude, you're crazy, you're insane. I'm a shark, brother, dude. I'll die if I stop moving. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I guess my definition of toughness, like I said, dude, you just gotta wake up take shit on the chin, eat a shit sandwich, dude. Fucking do what you got to do, and go to bed at night knowing that you did your best. Wake up the next morning, do the same thing. Because it's gonna be different for everybody, right? Like, just because me and you have lived particularly rough lives doesn't make us tougher than somebody who hasn't. Pain
100%.
and suffering are relative.
That is the epitome of, because a lot of people will suffer and wallow. My grandmother, rest in peace. She told me one time, my cousins are crackheads. One of them died a few years ago in Prattville. She was in a car. They were running from the police. She ended up hitting a 18-wheeler head on, deceased. But all of them live in a victim mindset. And we grew up in chaos, and we grew up in, and some of us worse than others. But my grandmother once told me, and she's from Clinton, Chilton County, Alabama, and she grew up during the Great Depression. And she said they were so dirt poor, they would have to take the potato sacks and make clothing out of them. And she had rheumatoid arthritis to the point of where her feet literally turned sideways and her hands were. I never once heard that woman complain. And so I asked her, we got towards the end, she had cancer, man. It was so bad that the cancer was growing out of her skin, literally. And I asked her one time what made her, and she said, you know what? Life is hard, and you got two choices. You can either lay there and die, or you can get up, keep moving, and go on about your business. I could sit here and whine and cry and give you a sob story and lay over here in the corner and act like, but at the end of the day, what is really that gonna do? Even bigger than that, am I serving God's purpose of myself if I'm wasting my breath on crying about things that happen? Go be the light and the truth to those that need it.
Exactly, brother. Exactly, brother. Are you gonna lay there and bleed, or are you gonna cowboy the fuck up, dude?
it,
My
it
advice to everybody out there is to cowboy the fuck up, regardless of your situation, dude. And listen, I've lived a rough one, so there's not very many excuses that I'm willing to take for not cowboying the fuck up.
I tell my kids all the time, when you see these trials and tribulations, I'm here to help you, but also you gotta, as you said, cowboy up. You gotta
You
buck
got
up.
cowboy up, take it
You
on the
know,
chin, brother. Life, life's gonna thump you. Life is gonna thump you. You gotta be
hard,
willing to take it.
harder than some of us get it, harder than others. But hey,
Everybody getting it one way or another. You know what
one
I'm
way or the
saying?
other, one way or the other. What's the biggest lesson that the mat has taught you about life?
Man, it might not be a lesson. It might just be the structure, right? The structure and the stability that it provides, right? So, I'm kind of a caveman, right? So rarely do I leave and I'm like, oh, I really learned about my life in there. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of people do, and I think that's beautiful. It's just not me. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just a caveman, right? So, but what it did do for me, was provide structure and stability, um, when the rest of my life was chaos, right? And so what that did for me was it taught me how to build structure and stability for myself, and I think that, for me, is the biggest thing. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, is the biggest thing that kind of keeps me out of my own way, is giving myself a structure and stability and a schedule, that I have to do it. I'll meltdown if I don't get up at 6, so that I can be at the gym at 7:30, so that I can start doing my chest at 7:35, and so that's been the biggest thing that I've pulled off the mats, is structure and stability, and with those things come discipline, right? Everybody likes to talk about discipline, but you don't get discipline without structure or stability, you know?
That's the thing that it did for me as well. I grew up in chaos, so it gave structure and detail. It's funny, like now dating, it's one of those things, the same thing, like girls, what is it you're looking for? I just want peace. Structure, detail, and peace. That's you ain't girl.
Exactly.
Look, you ain't even got to. I can wash my own clothes. I can cook my. I can make my own sandwiches.
Well, you a better man than me, dog. I don't even clip my own toenails.
Let me ask you this: Who would
I didn't make this coffee. I didn't even download this app, dog. My wife did all of that.
marry
I don't
set?
brush my own hair, right? Like I am a man child, right? I go
The
out and I'll
man,
defeat
the
the
myth, the
world.
legend.
Exactly. I will go out and I will single-handedly conquer the world, but when I'm at home, I am a mama's boy, dude. You know
That.
what I'm saying?
Who would be your dream role or match against somebody?
You know what, dude? I actually kind of brought it up earlier. Travis Thomas, I want you at 135 pounds, brother. Me and you on the PGF, on the freaking summit, at my gym, at your gym. I do not care. Meet me at 135 pounds, and FleaRoy Brown will be there.
Ooh.
He whooped my ass so bad about 4 or 5 years ago that I lost sleep over it, dog. Right? I listen. I said earlier I haven't taken an L. Right? I don't necessarily count it as an L, but I'm definitely gonna turn it into a dub if you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? That one, whoo! I've had my ass whooped so many times, they're all a blur. Except that one. That's the one that sticks, right?
It's always that one. So look, we
Travis
definitely got to
Samantha
get that on
Summit,
PG.
that's up to them, right? But I mean, PGF, streets, it don't make no difference to me, dog.
Now when this is I need an inbox. So I got to jump on a plane. Let me know because I'm definitely there.
Dude, I will let you know ASAP, dude. I don't think Travis Thomas is man enough to cut down to 135, dude, but I'll meet him there if he does. Quite frankly, I think he ain't gonna take it. Listen, I wouldn't take it neither, dude. I'd hate to fight me at 130. I'm the biggest 155 pounder in the world. So at 135, dude, it's ridiculous. It'd be absurd. It would be stupid. Honestly, if we're hashing it out and we're being real, it would be stupid for Travis to meet me at 135. Bad business deal on his end.
But
Bad
will
business
he?
deal on his.
We're gonna wait and see. Let me ask you the age-old question. You wrestled, you do jiu-jitsu. Which one wins in a street fight?
Okay, people are gonna hate this answer.
Just so to be fair, people are gonna hate what no matter what you say.
People are gonna hate this answer, dude. But I'll tell you this: if me and you are gonna fight in the street, I'm gonna wrestle you first, right? I'm not gonna try to wrist lock you while we're standing. I'm not gonna try to jump a triangle on you, right? I'm gonna try to double leg you and dome you off the double leg. And if that doesn't work, then I'll do some jujitsu, but I'm not pulling guard and inverting into ashigarami, No, I'm gonna double leg the shit out of you, hope that it knocks you the fuck out, and if it doesn't, then I'll go with plan B, which is jujitsu, right?
99% of the time, I call it baptism in the concrete. If I catch that double
Exactly.
leg,
Is that
going to
God
sleep.
forbid. Dude, listen, I only said double leg because if I high crotched somebody in the streets, jujitsu ain't even gonna come into play. You know what I'm saying? That'll be the end of that.
That's look,
Be done over.
and that's a wrap, Jack.
Exactly. Hit him with the
You
little
know,
okey doke, boop boop, high crotch, done, over with.
I know you got to go. Man, this has been straight fire. I knew definitely we need to do a follow-up so we can sit down. We both gonna cry. I already feel it. You gave some stories, some wisdom. Uh, your charisma and the person that you are can't be duplicated. And I said this a couple of times before, and I'm going to say it again. What you're doing and the voice that you're putting out and the work that you're doing is beyond words of what you're doing for a lot of people. So keep being you. And a lot of people are going to hate. A lot of people are going to say this and that. Continue to shut the doubters out because you are a voice to a lot of people that need and want to hear it. You want to drop your social media so that people can go give you a follow?
Man, it should just be. I mean, I'm probably the only FleaRoy Brown on Instagram,
Ooh,
right? You know what I'm saying?
hardest working, best dress,
There can
best
only be one.
handsome. If you need me to be your commentator, hardest working, best.
Yeah,
I can even hit a Ric Flair on him if you need me to.
yeah. Limousine
Everybody,
riding, jet
thank you.
flying, pinky ring wearing.
Woo!
Woo!
You know, I appreciate you coming on. I know you got to go get to coaching them youngins. Uh, if you ever need me, you've got my number. Call me, text me, anything that I can help you with, the school donations, anything that I can help you guys with. I'm going to go buy my jersey. I'll be supporting the Alabama Twisters. I'm supposed to come home in the next couple of months. I'll let you know ahead of time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep me
I
updated, dude.
appreciate
I'd
you,
love
brother.
to
You have a
have
great
you
rest
come
of your
by.
day.
Yes, sir, man. You have a good one, bro.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you.
Twisters up, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.